Hey guys, happy Saturday to everyone. I decided I wanted to come outside and spend a few minutes with Addie. As you see here, she's hanging out in the Orbit Baby car seat. I have just recently figured out properly how to adjust the newborn insert headrest, and there's an insert that goes underneath the seat, and I didn't have it in there properly installed. Not that it really matters at the end of the day, because I mean, it's not a living baby, but I like to know. And it was frustrating because I couldn't get the leg straps to come across in the position it was supposed to. They were too low for a newborn, so you have to adjust. I watched the Orbit Baby video, so you actually, because of the way that the seat is positioned, you have to move the leg straps up as well so that it's not, you know, for a longer baby. So once I have done that, I've realized something. It fits and they strap in so much nicer. Imagine such a thing. So I of course had to try it out and make sure it fit her properly. It does, although she's not strapped in now because I'm just sitting out on my patio steps. I've just realized from the storms that we had, the severe storms we had last week, I'll show you, there's debris everywhere. There's branches down. You can see a big branch over there that fell down. There were branches behind me on the patio that like came down on some of our bushes and flower beds. So yeah, so that's due to the amazing, lovely, ridiculous, extreme weather, including the tornadoes that kind of touched down throughout our area. It is what it is. That's what you get when you have severely warm weather. I'm just gonna chat while showing this gorgeous baby. She's so cute, you guys. So a while back on, I think it was one of the first videos I did with her. I'm not sure if it was the box opening or subsequent video, I don't remember, but someone had commented that they had seen this artist's work in person about a year ago. A little hair. And didn't think it was worth the price or prototype quality. So I found that very interesting, and the person had clarified that, you know, they hadn't seen this artist's work since, and you know, a year or so has gone by, so you know, her work clearly has evolved. And of course I can only attest to the quality of which the current doll that I have. I have not seen this artist's work other than Addie. And I can safely say that this particular baby is phenomenal. The realism, phenomenal. Everything about the way she's painted, the hair's rooted, just all the details. I've seen many prototype dolls over the years, and this baby by far really, just the realism, the quality, like everything, just it checks the boxes, and I think that she's very much worth her price and then some, because you know, in comparison to past dolls that went for more, I mean, it's all relative. So it brought me to thinking, because it's a conversation that a lot of collectors have behind the scenes. Like when you see a prototype artist release a new doll, even if it's not a prototype they're creating, you sometimes see the artist's best work, and then sometimes I think, just like any other artist out there, they have good days, they have bad days, and so they don't always produce their best work, or what I would consider prototype level work, if that makes sense. And so it begs the question, you know, and of course, wouldn't you know, the moment I want to step outside, there's someone doing yard work. Never fails. But I'm going to keep talking, and I apologize for that, because my neighbor's going to be obnoxious, clearly cutting down something. You hear that? That's nuts. Lord have mercy. So anyways, it's par for the course for how my last couple of weeks have been. So I'm just going to keep talking, and sorry for the noise. But I got to thinking, because this was a very valid question, and I had responded politely to the person who had said that, you know, I can only attest to what I see in front of me, the current doll, and what level of work I believe her to be. And by far, I can safely say that I think that just because someone's a prototype artist doesn't mean every doll is going to come out as prototype quality. And that means, you know, from newer artists all the way up to seasoned artists that produce prototype after prototype after prototype. And also, what makes prototype level quality work in a collector's eye is going to be different from collector to collector. We look for different things. We all like different things. So style of painting is going to vary to whether it's your cup of tea or not, because there are some very, very high-end, like I'm talking dolls that go for more than, and then we're talking reborn vinyl reborns. We're not talking about silicone. There are vinyl reborns that sell from prototype artists well above $4,000. Okay? And whether or not you feel that that's worth it or not, that's up to you as a collector, whether you'd want to pay that for a prototype artist's work. And that's not necessarily for a prototype that they've made. They're selling their dolls regularly at $3, $4, even more thousands of dollars because they're a prototype artist. However, that being said, I will say that for me, and this is my own opinion only, based on what I've seen, is that not all work produced by a prototype artist is worth that amount of money. In my eyes. In my eyes. I think that, for me, I think that some prototype artists rest on the fact that they are a prototype artist, so they don't always produce their best work, but yet they can still demand the same price as, you know, an actual prototype they did that was their best work. And I think that that's unfortunate, because I don't think that the quality is at a prototype level every single doll a prototype artist makes. I hope that makes sense. So I've seen lots of dolls produced by prototype artists that I love and would say, yep, if I were really loving the sculpt enough, I would spend the money hands down, right? And then there are dolls that I've seen by prototype artists, very, very well known, that I've seen other collectors purchase, spend, maybe it's on the secondary market, and then you see it pass hands very quickly, like from the original collector onto another, to another, to another. That tells me that, one, the artist's work wasn't their best. And then if it's someone you see posting a lot of pictures or sharing in YouTube videos or whatever, you kind of get an idea for why the doll was passed along or sold quickly from the original collector who bought it, taking a loss perhaps. To me, that speaks volumes. Ugh, I'm so sorry for that noise. This is so annoying. Ugh, that's what you get when you get a sunny day out. So I think that those are the things I always look out for. Like, every time, so annoying. Every time a prototype artist produces a doll, makes a doll, finishes a doll, does not mean it's going to be their very best work every time. I just don't think that it's even possible, because they're human. But it makes me wonder if they should be adjusting their prices accordingly. But I don't think they will, because, you know, as long as a collector's willing to pay the prototype price, they're going to keep selling for those prices, right? But it's on us as collectors. We set the tone, right? We set the tone for the pricing to be what it is. And if prototype artist ends up selling a doll that's not the best that they could do, and nobody buys it, then of course they'd lower their price, because they'd want to move the doll on. But because of their name, because of simply their name, most collectors will jump on it, whether they look into whether they think the doll is worth it or not, and they have to experience it in real life to understand whether it was a good purchase or if it maybe wasn't something they should have done. You live and learn. But I think that I can say, for like example of Addie May here, I think that this artist's work on this particular doll is phenomenal, well worth the price I paid for her and then some, but maybe some of her other work isn't. I would not know because I have never experienced her work in person. You know, until you experience it and you see it in person, it's always hard to tell, right? I mean, even in people's pictures and in video, depending on how well they do it. Usually, you know, if a collector is really good at taking pictures, they can show the doll in the best light. But then if you know that someone's not really great at it, you can kind of tell pretty quickly if the doll isn't as good. I don't know. I guess that's why I struggle with like making sure I try to come across and share all the good things in my dolls, and it's very hard to do sometimes because I'm not good at it. But like, I don't know. I think that it's somewhat unfortunate that prototype artists may or may not be producing their best work every time, but they're still putting the same dollar amount and value on all dolls. And I'm just curious to know your thoughts, because it's an interesting question to pose. Just because it's a name, does that really keep the value at its highest, even if the work isn't the best that they've done? What do you guys think? What are your thoughts on it? Do you think if it's a prototype artist, you just have to pay the higher price and you shouldn't question it, and you shouldn't, I don't know, expect top quality, like the best if you're gonna pay that amount for it, even if it's not the best? Like, I don't know. Hopefully I'm making sense, but it's stuff like this that I think about, because I do think that it's kind of price gouging what some artists do. That's my opinion. You guys can agree or disagree with me. It's, you know, an open discussion, but just based on what I've experienced, I don't think, you know, if you're a prototype artist, slapping the same price on every single doll you create when the work may not be equal across the board and the best across the board, I think that it's not right to charge that same price. So if you know that you didn't produce your best work, and you know, you as an artist should know, especially if you're a high level prototype artist like that, you should be aware of what's really good work and what's not if you're self-aware. So I feel like there should be times where prototype artists should be lowering their prices, because what I'm seeing, even on like a secondary market, is that people are asking ungodly amounts of money for a doll just because it's a prototype artist painted doll. And it doesn't mean it's worth it, is what I'm trying to say. I think sometimes you get really great dolls that are painted by lesser known artists who do just as beautiful work, if not better, for a much lower price. And I have to say, in comparison to like what some of the other prototype artists have charged, like let's just use the Adeline prototypes, this baby was very affordable in comparison to what some of the other prototypes were, I don't know, what people paid for them. She was not the most expensive, but to me, she's one of the most beautiful. Of course, I can't tell you if she's, you know, what the others are like in person. I can only go based on pictures, but I can say that it was very reasonable, the price that I paid for her, considering what some of the other prototype Adelines went for. Just my opinion. So that to be said, you know, everybody, I think a lot of us collectors get caught up in the notion that prototype artists must be better, obviously, because we're spending way more on them. But I don't think that's truly the case. I think sometimes you get better dolls by the lesser known artists, and you're definitely not paying the price of a prototype. So always keep your mind and options open. Like, keep an open mind when you're viewing dolls. If it's not a, you know, certified this, that, and it's got every certification and artist, whatever, all of the credentials that some of the prototype artists have, doesn't mean it's not going to be good work. It might mean that it's not as good work, but you got to do your homework. Like, don't just buy a doll because it's done by a prototype artist. Make sure you love the doll, because here's the other thing. Because prototype artists are always doing prototypes, and then they go, oh, I've got an open slot. It's like a loose custom or they just randomly pop out a doll in between doing customs, but they're selling it at a custom price, make sure you love the sculpt 100% to spend that prototype price for, because sometimes it's just not worth it, and sometimes it is. So I'm not here to tell you what is and what isn't. It's going to be based on whatever's produced at the time, who the artist is, and whether or not you're willing to want to pay that price for it, whether you value it to be worth that prototype price, if that makes sense. But always keep your mind open and your options open, because on the secondary market, most of the time, depending on who the artist is, you could probably get it at a discounted price, and that's definitely usually a better way to go if you want a prototype artist's work. And then if you're not completely 100% in love and satisfied, or it's not their best work, or maybe you don't absolutely love the sculpt, because to me the sculpt makes it or breaks it. If I don't love the sculpt, I'm not buying it, no matter how pretty the doll is. But you know, finding those really beautiful gems on the secondary market is for sure the way to go, maybe to experience a prototype artist for the first time, so you're not paying the full price for the experience. But just keep in mind, it doesn't mean it's going to be the best doll you ever have. Let's just say I've had many prototype dolls and went, okay, that's not what I expected, or I expected so much more with all the hype surrounding certain said artists, you know. Paying the most doesn't mean you're going to get the best. And that says, I can say that about all dolls, every medium, every artist. Because there are going to be, even the best artists out there, you're going to find dolls that they created on off days that's not their best work and isn't, you know, the best of the best of the best, because we're human, they're human. So bear that in mind, and always do your homework. Always do your homework before you just rush to buy just because it's got a prototype artist who painted the doll. Because you want to make a good sound investment when you buy a doll, and overpaying for a prototype artist's name is not worth it most of the time. But that's just my 2 cents. I'd love to hear your thoughts, or I'd love to hear if you've experienced, you know, taking the plunge, buying a very expensive prototype doll by a very high-end, well-known prototype artist, and then being underwhelmed. Or were you overwhelmed and thought it was the best doll you've ever had? Just curious if, you know, you guys have experienced similar things. I think if you buy dolls long enough, you will find that there are just artists, so many artists to choose from, that it doesn't need to be a prototype artist to have one of the most beautiful dolls in your possession. And therefore you didn't break the bank to have the doll as well. But hopefully that makes sense. But I'd love to hear your feedback. I'd love to hear your experiences. If you have experienced that before, or you have always bought prototypes and you've always been so pleasantly surprised and think it's worth every dollar you paid for the doll, or if you would have went like, maybe not the best investment, you let me know. Share your thoughts. But it is gorgeous out here. Little Addie Mae is very comfortable because it's probably about, and I'm sitting in the shade, but it's probably about 78 degrees humidity. It's much more bearable. It's not super humid today, and the sun is out. I just happen to be in the shade where it's safe for baby. But there is little Addie Mae. I love this baby. I'm glad I didn't pay the top prototype price for her. I mean, she wasn't cheap, but she wasn't the most expensive either. She falls somewhere in the middle, I think, in the reasonable range. Definitely not the most I've paid for a prototype doll, that's for sure. But well worth every penny and then some. I still stand by that, having experienced her now for a couple of months, I believe. Trying to think when I got her. I enjoy her even more now, and I have bonded with her. I just think she's adorable, and I think that the artist's work for her is just phenomenal still. Like, I still discover things, especially being out in natural lighting, and still discovering things that I didn't notice immediately. But she's just so cute, and I love this blush Love Baby Sleeper. Those Love Baby Sleepers are like my favorite on her. I think they just suit her body type, and even scrunched up, it's not got a huge bulge. This is a diaper bulge. So I don't know, I'm just in love with how they fit her, and it makes her even more newborn, perfectly newborn looking in them. So say hi, aunties. So anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there, but please do share your thoughts and opinions. I'm open to hearing all thoughts and opinions. It doesn't matter if you agree, disagree with me. I think it's an interesting conversation, and I don't know, I want to know your thoughts. So please do share your thoughts, guys, and I hope you're enjoying your weekend. I know it's been hot as Hades elsewhere and not here, so I'm glad for the relief. But hopefully you're enjoying whatever weather you're having right now. I hope it's wonderful weather and you're having a great weekend. And that's it from us, guys. You will see us very, very soon. And as always, thanks for watching. Bye-bye.